Many people know how to use a Excel add-in called Analysis Toolpack to run linear regression. But the problem is Excel for Mac does not have that add-in. Does that mean Excel for Mac users are out of luck in terms of running regression? The answer is no. In fact, Excel has a linear regression function built in, so you actually do not have to have that Toolpack. Let me show you how. Here the data we have just seen, one dependent variable, one independent variable. The dependent variable being demand, and the independent variable, also called explanatory variable, is price. So we want to run a regression of demand against price. In other words, we want to use price to forecast demand. So to use this function called LINEST, standing for linear estimation, we need to actually specify a table with the dimension of 5 by 2, 5 rows and 2 columns, and it will be filled by the output of this function, which will be apparent in a minute. Now to use this function, step 1, select the whole table 5 by 2 and go ahead, type LINEST. Now the hints here says the first is known y. What is a dependent variable? So we select our demand. What's your x? Here we have only one column, but in fact Excel can accommodate more. And the third option is, do you want the constant to be 0 or not? We want it to be not 0, so type true. And the last one says, do you want to report the statistics? And what are the statistics? Here I made a legend table so that you can see they basically are what are the intercept, slope, and the standard error of each one, R square and F stat, among other things. So we will choose to report that. Now the last step is, instead of enter, you on the Mac you type command enter. Okay, so that's how you let LINEST, this function, run and show results. As you can see here, basically we look at the mapping. Intercept is 573 and the intercept is minus 561. And if you still remember our scatter plot in our previous exercise, this turns out to be identical, which is very reassuring. But what's more, compared to the scatter plot way of running regression, they actually report the standard error, which is important in terms of testing whether the results is statistically significant. Now I made a small table just copying all those values, and this allows us to do a t-test, which is simply the ratio of estimate over a standard error. Now rule of thumb is that if the absolute value of t-stat is greater than 2, then it is significant at the 5% level. So you can see that both coefficients are indeed very significant. And R square, again, just copy from the results here, 88%. And F stat here, we wanted this stat to be as larger as possible. And this tells us that the overall model is of significance. Now, what if you have more than 2 variables? Now, if you have more than 2 explanatory variables, this table would, the first 2 rows would just be extending to the right. So that's how you use LINEST function to run linear regression, which is convenient especially for Mac users.